What happens when a man who has mastered every loophole in the law decides he is bigger than the judge presiding over him? On a quiet Tuesday morning inside Providence Municipal Court, that question was finally answered. At exactly 9:15 a.m., the courtroom doors swing open with a heavy thud. Julian Vane walks in like he owns the building. 42 years old, Ivy League educated, one of the top corporate defense attorneys in the state. His charcoal suit is perfectly tailored. Italian leather shoes echo sharply against the floor. A gold watch flashes under the courtroom lights as he adjusts his cuff. He doesn't look at the gallery, he looks through them. Because in Julian Vane's world, most people are background noise. Across the aisle sits Mrs. Martha Gable, 68 years old, widowed, retired librarian. Her cardigan is simple. Her hands tremble slightly as she holds a worn manila folder against her chest. Inside that folder are photographs of a small wooden garden shed. A shed that stood in her backyard for 50 years. A shed that no longer exists. 3 months earlier, Vane's client, a luxury real estate developer, demolished it to improve the penthouse view of a high-rise building. When Martha tried to stop them, Julian Vane pointed to a technical easement clause in a property document. "You can't afford to fight this," he told her calmly, and then he laughed. Today she isn't here for sympathy. She is here because something sacred to her was destroyed. The judge studies the file in silence. His expression reveals nothing. Then he presses a button. Security footage fills the courtroom screens. It's a bright summer afternoon. Hydrangeas bloom along a fence. The neighborhood looks peaceful. Then an excavator rolls into frame. Behind it, a sleek black luxury sedan. Julian Vane steps out of the car in sunglasses, holding paperwork. Martha appears moments later, rushing toward the machine, waving her arms desperately. Her mouth moves in panic. She is pleading. Vane barely glances at her. He taps the document in his hand and gestures toward the shed. The excavator's claw crashes into the wooden roof. Wood splinters explode into the air. Dust rises. The structure collapses in seconds. Martha drops to her knees. In the background, Julian Vane checks his watch and laughs at something his client says. The video freezes. The courtroom falls silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy in your lungs. Julian clears his throat. "Your Honor, that footage lacks context. My client was exercising a valid legal easement." His voice is calm, slightly irritated, as if this entire hearing is beneath him. The judge leans forward slightly. "Mr. Vane, do you believe intimidation constitutes lawful conduct?" Vane smirks faintly. "With respect, if Mrs. Gable felt emotional, that's unfortunate. But emotion does not override property law." A soft gasp moves through the gallery. "Watch your tone," the judge says evenly. Julian Vane makes the mistake that will change everything. He steps closer to the bench. "I have argued before the Supreme Court," he says, voice rising. "I am in the top 1% of attorneys in this state. I will not be lectured by a municipal judge whose docket consists of parking disputes." The courtroom freezes. The judge removes his glasses slowly and sets them on the bench. "You threaten this court?" he asks quietly. Vane leans forward, his confidence unchecked. "I have friends on the Judicial Conduct Committee. By Monday morning I'll have your bench." The temperature in the room seems to drop. "You mistake influence for authority," the judge says. "The law is not your toy, and it is not your shield from consequences." Before Vane can respond, the courtroom doors open again. An older man enters, measured steps, silver hair, dark charcoal suit. Arthur Sterling, founding partner of Vane's firm. Julian's expression shifts instantly. "Arthur." Sterling walks past him without acknowledgement. He approaches Martha first. "Mrs. Gable," he says softly, "I am deeply sorry." Then he turns to Vane. "I reviewed the footage last night." He signals to the bailiff and hands over a thick folder. Years of internal complaints against Mr. Vane, witness intimidation, ethical violations, coercive tactics. I buried them because he was profitable. Whispers ripple through the courtroom. The judge flips through the pages slowly. Documented threats, settlements signed under pressure, fabricated statements. Julian's composure begins to crack. "Julian Vane," the judge says calmly, "for contempt of court, intimidation of a vulnerable citizen, and threatening a presiding judge, I sentence you to 30 days in county jail, effective immediately. The words land like a hammer. Vane's face drains of color. You will pay $50,000 in restitution from your personal earnings. You are hereby referred to the State Bar Association with recommendation for permanent disbarment, and you will complete 500 hours of community service at a legal aid clinic. The bailiff steps forward. The metallic click of handcuffs echoes across the silent courtroom. For a brief second, the gold watch catches the light one last time, then it disappears behind steel. The man who walked in believing he controlled the system is led out in custody. 6 months later, the setting is different. A modest legal aid clinic. Faded walls, overloaded file cabinets, the quiet hum of fluorescent lights. Julian Vane stands in simple work clothes, mopping the floor. No designer suit, no gold watch, no arrogance. He now assists the very people he once dismissed. Single mothers struggling with eviction notices. Elderly tenants confused by legal paperwork. Workers cheated out of wages. The door opens. Martha Gable steps inside, her cane tapping gently against the tile. Julian freezes. Their eyes meet. This time he does not look through her, he looks at her. I was wrong, he says quietly, for everything. His voice carries no ego now, only regret. Martha studies him for a long moment. Then she pulls a chair closer and sits down. Tell me about your week, she says calmly. They talk, not as enemies, not as plaintiff and defendant, but as two human beings. For the first time in his life, Julian understands something law school never taught him. The law is not about domination. It is about protection. 3 months later, he stands before the State Bar Association. No tailored suit, no air of superiority, just a man facing the consequences of his past. I spent a decade winning cases while losing my humanity, he admits. The room is silent, not angry, not applauding, just reflective. Julian Vane once believed he was the law. He was wrong. The law does not live in prestige, influence, or gold watches. It lives in dignity. And on that Tuesday morning, it reminded everyone in that courtroom, no one is above it.